Hey guys, today we'll be covering a 2020 romance drama film called All the Bright Places. The movie is set in a small Indiana town where we are introduced to a boy named Theodore Finch. While out for an early morning run, he spots his fellow classmate Violet Markley standing on the ledge of a bridge. He rushes to her side and asks her to get off the ledge. When she refuses, he climbs up next to her and tries to talk her down from possibly taking her life. Seeing Finch endanger his own life for her, she agrees to return back home. Later that day, Finch attends his weekly counseling session with school guidance counselor Robert Emery. It's revealed that Finch has been truant and is in danger of not graduating. Finch is a loner by nature and is called a freak by other students. Meanwhile, Violet is quietly dealing with survivor guilt after the death of her sister. Turns out that today would have been her sister's 19th birthday. Violet's parents Cheryl and James try to cheer her up with a birthday cake, but without success. Violet also turns down the invitation to her close friend Amanda's party. At home, Finch looks up Violet on Facebook and learns that Violet's sister Eleanor passed away in a car crash 9 months earlier at the same bridge he saw her. The next day, Mr. Hudson gives everyone a class project for which the students must report on 2 or more wonders of Indiana. Finch tries to ask Violet to be his partner, but she gives him the cold shoulder. After returning home, Violet complains to her mother about Mr. Hudson forcing her to do the outdoor assignment. Cheryl agrees to help her out of the project on the condition that she starts hanging out with her friends again. Violet reluctantly accepts the condition, and she attends Amanda's party. There, she gets into a fight with her boyfriend Romer when he accuses her of being cold to him since her sister's death. Upset, Violet leaves the party, and on her way home, she receives an Instagram notification from Finch. It is revealed that he has tagged her in his story where he has serenaded her with a song about their encounter at the bridge. Embarrassed, she immediately calls him and asks him to take the story down. Finch agrees, but only on the condition that she meets him. She reluctantly agrees, and at their meeting, Finch asks her to be partners with them for the geography project. After some thought, Violet agrees to be partners with them, but on the condition that they commute on bikes. It turns out that ever since the car crash, Violet hasn't been in a car. So, Finch and Violet begin by traveling around Indiana to see sites chosen by him. They bike to the highest point in Indiana, where Finch manages to make her laugh over how lame the place is. It is revealed that Finch lives with his older sister Tina, who notices that Finch appears more happy than usual. It's clear that Finch is smitten by Violet. Later that night, Finch takes Violet to an old abandoned building where they write poetry on the wall. There, Violet finally opens up about her late sister. She recalls that Eleanor was bossy and generally hated reading. However, Eleanor had a favorite Italian poet named Cesare Pavese, who once famously said, "We do not remember days, we remember moments." Anytime Violet was having a bad day, Eleanor used to say the quote to her, and it would instantly make her feel better. The next day when Violet tells Amanda that she has partnered with Finch for the geology project, Amanda cautions her about him, saying he is dangerous. Amanda also reveals that Finch once freaked out in the middle of class and threw a chair at Romer. Later, when Finch approaches Violet to see if she wants to hang out after class, she turns him down, saying that they have already visited enough sites for their project. Romer also arrives and rudely fends him off. This slightly bothers Finch, but he refuses to give up his newfound friendship with Violet. The next day, Violet wakes up to find Finch sleeping on her lawn. When she comes outside, he tells her that he has planned a 160-mile-long trip to the best wonder in India, promising to drive slower than 50 miles per hour. When Violet tries to remind him that the project is over, Finch tells her it's not about the project anymore. It's about Violet being holed up in her room or on her bike, always circling the same 3-mile radius in the town. The commotion attracts the attention of Cheryl and James. Finch introduces himself and convinces them to coax Violet into going on the trip. Violet initially panics in the car, but soon she becomes comfortable. She tearfully recalls how she and Eleanor got into the accident and how she woke up in the hospital to the news of her sister's demise. Finch holds her hand and comforts her. Soon, they reach their destination and it is revealed to be a miniature roller coaster. Violet loves the roller coaster and keeps on riding it again and again. Violet has never been happier, and Finch compliments her saying she's all the colors in one, at full brightness. One thing leads to another, and the two kiss. On their drive home, they explore different places walking hand in hand. After returning from her trip, Violet returns to writing for the first time since her sister's death. Finch also introduces her to his friends, and she slowly begins to heal as they fall in love. However, slowly Finch begins to exhibit erratic behavior and he starts to skip classes again. When he disappears for several days without contacting anyone, Violet talks to his friends about it, but they tell her not to worry as Finch routinely disappears every now and then. One day, Finch randomly shows up at her home. She is upset with him, but he wins her over with the van full of flowers. He then takes her to Blue Hole Lake. The water is freezing cold, but they get in the lake to swim. Afterwards, they sit by the lake and talk. When Violet asks him about the large scar on his abdomen, Finch avoids answering the question and jumps in the water again. When he doesn't reappear, Violet begins to panic and jumps in the water looking for him. By the time he resurfaces, Violet is distraught and proceeds to leave in anger. Finch profusely apologizes to her and asks her to stay. In tears, Violet pushes him to tell her where he goes when he disappears, threatening to leave him if he doesn't comply. Left with no choice, Finch tells her that sometimes he has to go to places that make him feel like himself. He needs to do things that remind him that he's in control. He reveals that he has been physically abused by his father as a child and that his mother is absent in his life. Hearing this, Violet comforts him and they return home. On one occasion, Finch and Violet stay out all night by accident, upsetting Violet's parents. When Finch takes Violet back home, her parents abruptly send him away. This upsets Finch and he beats himself up over it. Violet apologizes to her parents and promises to communicate better in the future. That day, at school, Violet's ex-boyfriend Romer approaches her and warns her against dating Finch. Soon, Finch arrives and proceeds to lead her away. However, Finch ends up losing his temper when Romer calls him a freak. The two boys end up fighting in the hall, and when Finch almost chokes Romer, Violet yells at him to stop. Upset, Finch takes off in his car. Violet, who broke up the fight, ends up in the principal's office with Finch's friend Charlie. While they talk, Finch attends a support group session in a nearby town, recommended to him by Mr. Embry, the school guidance counselor. There, he runs into Violet's friend Amanda, who opens up to the group about her eating disorder and 2 self-harm attempts. Finch doesn't return Violet's calls, so she visits his house after school. There, she meets Finch's sister Kate. Since Finch is still at a meeting and Kate has to leave for work, Kate tells Violet to stay and wait for him to return home. After the support group meeting, Finch shows up at Kate's work. He sits down with her and prompts her to talk about their father. This causes her to worry about him, but he reassures her that he's fine. Afterwards, he goes back home. There, he finds Violet waiting for him in his disheveled room. When Violet begs him to open up to her, he shouts at her to leave. Finch disappears again. Violet tries to contact him for days but without success. Seeing her upset, James presses her to open up and she tells him how she and Finch met at the bridge on Eleanor's birthday. When James worries about her, Violet assures him that she's doing fine and expresses concern over Finch's latest disappearance. James suggests that she check places they had visited together and she immediately drives to the Blue Hole. There, she finds his van, clothes, and phone abandoned by the lake. Inferring that Finch has drowned himself, Violet breaks down and yells his name. Sometime later, Violet attends his funeral with her parents. There, she comforts Finch's friends and sister. At times, she blames herself for not being there for Finch. Violet also learns about Amanda's condition and apologizes to her for being so clueless about what she was going through. While healing from Finch's tragedy, Violet finds the map they used to travel around Indiana and notices the last location they were supposed to visit together marked in red. It's the Traveler's Prayers Chapel, a resting place for travelers and a place of healing for mourners. She immediately travels there and finds Finch's signature in the book. With Finch gone, Violet presents their school project alone. She reads aloud her experiences and the lessons Finch taught her. Violet tells the class she used to be worried about everything, that things that seemed meaningful were actually meaningless. She worried about life. She worried about what would happen if she let herself feel again. She felt she didn't deserve to be happy anymore. Then, without really knowing it, Violet changed. She was no longer worried about what would happen if she lived. She was now worried about what would happen if she didn't. She started worrying about what she would miss. She worried about not remembering all of the moments and all of the places. And that was because of Finch, because he taught her to wonder. He taught her that she doesn't have to climb a mountain to stand on top of the world, that even the ugliest places can be beautiful as long as you take the time to look, that it's okay to get lost as long as you find your way back. But in learning all of that, she missed something more important. She missed seeing Finch. She missed that he was in pain. She missed that he was teaching her all along how to move on. Finch was a dreamer. He dreamed when he was awake. He dreamt of all the beauty in the world, and he made it come to life. Finch taught her that there's beauty in the most unexpected of places,